Hello, and welcome to Lecture 1 in your Anthropology Web CT class. In the lecture today, I'd like to talk to you about two concepts in anthropology expressed in Chapter 1 that will be critical to your understanding of the field as a whole. The first of these concepts is cultural relativity. Please excuse the somewhat awkward use of slides, since this is my first exposure to doing this by video, and it's going to be experimental for me and hopefully not too much of a trial for you. Anyway, cultural relativity is a term that refers to the desire of anthropologists to look at other cultures and people from other cultures from the perspective of an insider, understanding why and how people do things within those cultures based on their own values, their own traditions, and what works for them in terms of survival. As an example, somewhat of an extreme example, let's use the concept of infanticide. Infanticide refers to the killing or neglect of newborn infants, neglect to the point of death, that's used as a form of population or birth control in some other cultures. To Americans, to Westerners, who look forward or anticipate the birth of a baby with a great deal of joy, who may regard the baby as a sacred blessing from God, or certainly as something to be welcomed into the family, the whole notion of infanticide is something abhorrent, something that sounds evil or crazy, that simply can't be understood. But try looking at it for a moment from the perspective of a woman in another culture, another country, who lives in quite different circumstances. This woman is probably malnourished herself. She may be already breastfeeding an infant somewhere between the ages of 9 months and 24 months. She has no local supermarket, and certainly no money, even if she had one, to go out and buy food for that infant she's already breastfeeding. There's no infant formula available. And so for her, having a newborn infant, probably not a very healthy one since she's malnourished herself and already breastfeeding, provides a burden that may endanger not only her own life and health, but that of the baby that she's already come to know and love. If she tries to breastfeed both babies, she puts both of their healths at risk. In addition, she herself may not survive. The choice? She has no method of birth control, no access to safe sanitary abortions. The traditional solution to this problem is infanticide. Usually it doesn't involve active killing of an infant, but instead simply taking the baby out into the forest somewhere and allowing nature to take its course. It's not something the mother desires, but it's what she does in order that she and her baby that she already has can survive. Again, from our perspective, this is something which may seem horrible, and we're not asking you, from the perspective of anthropology, to engage in moral relativity, the idea that anything can be right and there are no such things as moral values. Instead, just to try to understand someone else's behavior from the perspective of their life circumstances. Instead, what we frequently get in the media is what's referred to as ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism refers to looking at the world and looking at other people's behavior from the perspective of your values and your culture. We've all been exposed to a lot of ethnocentrism in the media lately, particularly since September 11th, when all good Americans were expected to regard people from some certain other cultures and people who engaged in certain other behaviors as being evil or crazy. The media emphasized the fact that it was difficult to understand these people or those people. And certainly it's difficult, but that's what anthropology is all about, understanding other people's behavior. Ethnocentrism has its good points. It results in you supporting your country, supporting your culture, supporting your parents and their values, and teaching those values to your children, passing them along. That part certainly is good, it results in the preservation of culture, which is something anthropology is all for. On the other hand, ethnocentrism can also lead to problems such as stereotyping, judgments, and sometimes even behaviors, such as going to war, that are the result of people believing in their own superiority, the rightness of their own values, to the exclusion of their ability to understand why other people act the way they do, and how just sometimes other people might have a point, might be right, or at the very least have a right to their own opinion. These two concepts, cultural relativity and ethnocentrism, will be presented throughout your